I think we will have more people joining in as we start the conversation. So, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us for the Women Connect India Speaker Series 3.0 webinar. I'm your host Ritesh Datta, and I'm looking forward to our discussion about initiatives of the Indian government to promote digital inclusion. Our topic today is vast, probably hundreds of PhDs and postdoctoral research papers will not be able to do justice to it. Yet it is a critical aspect of the work we do to counter the issue of gender digital divide. And a rounded understanding of this topic will allow us to design and implement more impactful and scalable interventions for our target audiences. India's endorsement of the inclusive growth and sustainable development through financial inclusion and digital public infrastructure, the recent G20 summit also makes it a highly topical conversation. Um, it's not an isolated topic, as we all working in the civil society space understand. Many of our earlier webinars have touched upon this aspect of digital inclusion in our conversations. And I encourage all of you to go back to our webinar recordings on YouTube, conducted over the last few years, and refresh your memories about this topic whenever you have some time to spare. Today, we touch upon what some leading nonprofits are doing in this space, and to motivate you to start thinking about how you and your organization can align and, in fact, better align your work on inclusion with government initiatives to promote the larger vision of digital India. Both our speakers today, unfortunately, are traveling. Osama Manzar, founder of Development Empowerment Foundation, has kindly sent in a video recording, which we will play for you. And Mathura Kanik, the Chief Growth Officer at Haq Dashak, has logged in from the airport. You'll see her here. I'm so grateful for their participation today, and I look forward to hearing their thoughts on this topic. I'm sure you'll find their work and insights useful to help you think through their interventions in this context and their alignment with relevant government's Digital India initiatives. Our first speaker, Osama Manzar, is the founder of Development Empowerment Foundation and one of the foremost figures in the digital inclusion ecosystem in India today. Like I mentioned earlier, Osama could not be here in person, but we have his recording, which he kindly sent us for all of you. If you have questions for him or wish to connect with him in case you're not already connected to him, please let me or our DF colleagues who are here know, and we are happy to facilitate a conversation.
So, hi, this is Osama Manzar. I'm actually talking to all of you from a farm which is slightly unconnected area in Pondicherry in South India. I'm founder director of Digital Empowerment Foundation. Very delighted to talk about digital inclusion, which actually, from my perspective, the way I have been tracking and I've been knowing internet and how digital has come to our life for about 3 decades earlier. It's a slightly older version of digitalization or digital revolution. We used to use in the first 10 years digital inclusion because the whole world wanted everybody to be included. And now we are globally, if you really see that connectivity and access has already reached 2/3 of the population of the world, 1/3 is still left. But certainly digital inclusion is still talked about, especially post-COVID, is because suddenly we realize that not everybody is included digitally. Not everybody is getting benefited from the digital, paraphernalia and so on and so forth. So let me also try to describe what digital inclusion means in a current perspective, and when we are talking about typically in Indian condition or situation, is that we claim statistically that 48% of India is connected or internet users, 48%. It doesn't say that they are meaningfully connected or they're meaningful users or not, but it just say users. It also includes people who use internet few times in a year or once in a month, something like that. Very, very meager user also are included in that. About 52% are non-internet users in India out of 1.4 billion population. And so obviously there is a huge population which is not included among the internet users or the digital users or digital infrastructure users. So there is an effort that how do we include everybody in digital inclusion. And if you see further statistics, you will find that women are mostly not included. So that's a big issue, that having 50% of the population who are women and they are part of the economy, why are they not included? And therefore, you also keep hearing about gender digital divide, or why the digital dividend is not reaching women. And there are a lot of things that happens across the world, and even in this program that we are part of, there is a special effort, how do we include women. So digital inclusion actually means that it's a positive way of saying that we are including, or we are trying to include maximum number of people into the digital infrastructure. And I personally feel that about 10 years back, digital inclusion was a very good word in terms of being inclusive. Today we have 10 people user, tomorrow we have 20 people, then 30 people, then 40 people. But why I am slightly more aggressive in terms of, slightly skeptical also about digital inclusion is that today the harsh reality is that if you're not digitally included, you are actually excluded. You have no choice, because there are policies, there are programs, there are schemes, government schemes, and there are trend and culture and adaptation of digital is so much that we are making digital only policies, that you have no choice but to do something like making payment or receiving payment through online system is the only choice to many people. If I am not included, digitally included, that I may be excluded. Similarly, there are 400 million people who apply for NREGA work, to get a job. And now suddenly government sometimes says that, and there is a new rule that says that you have to do attendance marking through online system, and they don't have digital inclusion in their life. They have no. So in that case, it is they are excluded. So it's great that we are talking digital inclusion from that perspective, that you have to be fast forward, we have to include everyone. So that's the definition part. That we have to be concerned about digital inclusion, so much so that if you're not doing it today, we are leaving our marginalized communities, our women, our rural population almost excluded, which is not fair. The second part is that we obviously, when we talk about digital inclusion, we talk about government as a major responsible entity, apart from telcos and infrastructure developers. And you must have seen that government does hundreds and hundreds of programs nationally, statewide, and all that. You must have recently heard that government of Kerala has declared access or internet access as a human rights, as a basic right to humanity. And that kind of effort is only because they consider, as a state, they consider that access is so important that it has to be part of natural rights, natural human rights. And you must have heard of BharatNet, which actually government trying to reach the access to the panchayat level, where all the villages should have access to broadband. We are lagging behind in that, but there is a whole scheme. Recently, government has announced that several 100,000 villages are going to receive a special fund to be connected household in terms of broadband connectivity. So government is also taking BharatNet to the level of village household to be connected. So that's a scheme, but I don't want to go into detail how efficacy has really imbibed into the scheme, but at least there is an intention to provide connectivity and access to the maximum number of people. You must have heard of a huge effort by RBI and various financial institutions for financial inclusion through digital means, which is again a grand government scheme that if you have a bank account, you must do receive funds online and you transact online. And there is a whole effort that is happening. We as an organization, Digital Empowerment Foundation, we are also doing one project with the government of Assam to do financial counseling, and preferably online, of the farmers, 250,000 farmers in Assam. And we are actually trying to build a pilot ecosystem to be replicated in all states, that how financial counseling can also take place among marginalized communities through online systems, to take responsibility of your money, of your finances, to invest in a right direction. So that's major area that government is working very aggressively. We also know that UPI, which is an online payment, is a great system or digital infrastructure that has started including maximum number of people. And the recent report says that in India, 360 or 66 million people at the end of last year or sometimes this year made a transaction through UPI. About 99% of all online transactions were made on UPI. But there is an irony in that one, that only 30% of those numbers were from rural India. That means from rural India, only 122 million people made online transaction through UPI. That means even though we have made UPI based payment system like GPay and Paytm and PhonePe and so on and so forth, we still haven't been able to reach 908 million of the rural population and millions of SHG workers, millions of panchayat elected women members, or for that matter, health workers and so on and so forth, because all of them are women. I am taking their exclusive, name, because I feel very strongly that if we take digital inclusion through women, we actually do much better in life, in domestic life as well as in business life. For example, if we take digital to SHG women, it will be much better, much fast forward. 1/3 of our elected panchayat member are women. If we can take that to them, that will be much better. So there are lots of government schemes and experiments. For example, common service centers, which is of course one of the oldest program of the government, but it started becoming successful in the last 5 years or 7 years, and now government claims that it has gone up to 300,000 plus numbers. I don't want to debate the number, but certainly it has reached many parts of the country. Our own Sushnapreneur system, which is very woman focused in terms of village level entrepreneur running digital centers and providing access to the village community, has been recognized as one of the programs that can be adopted, concentrating on women to be the leader or the entrepreneur at a village level to make changes as an information entrepreneur. There are many more programs that I can say which has gone scale, and I would like to embed government as well as our program in a manner that, for example, going online as leaders, one program that we started doing several years back, doing mentorship, skilling and leadership making through video call system, where the mentor woman is actually talking to the mentees, who are again girls, tribal girls in the villages, through video in a very informal manner. And that became so popular that Ministry of Tribal Affairs converted the whole program as a national program. And Goal became a national program, and it is still running from the Secretariat, which is based in Ministry of Tribal Affairs. There are many more programs that I can go on and on, but what I would like to highlight here in this webinar is that when you talk about digital inclusion, I would say that we should make all policies, we should make all approaches, we should make all kind of efforts to do women first digital. That's very important. One, because they are the 50% of the population. Second, because when they are digital, they immediately affect their family and their children. which is basically 1 plus 2, 1 plus 3. One woman digitally enabled, that means the whole household become digitally enabled. Third, woman as an entrepreneur, woman as a digital entrepreneur, or woman as connected, they produce better content than men because they usually will make content which is meaningful. And the reason I'm saying is that we are also living in the world of misinformation, fake news, and forwards. You will say that if you're working with women or women entrepreneur, you will see that the consumption of unreliable information is very less, and also very high consumption of the utilization of digital goods into making meaningful utilization, either by their children or by themselves doing business online and so on and so forth. Fourth, and this is a research done based on our Sushnapreneur, if the woman is a digital entrepreneur at a village level, she is better accountable, and the M&E is much lower to figure out that whether the money that is spent or the devices that has been given is meaningfully used or not. So you don't have to really, you just have to blindfold rely on that they will be accountable, they will be responsible, they will be replicable, they will be convertible in terms of making good use of digital. And this is proven by a research done by Forest School of Management, not Forest, ISB researcher on Sushnapreneur. And the link that we can share in the chat, that what is this research that proves that woman digital entrepreneur at a village level is a better option than men, and the convertibility and the impact is much higher than that one. And the last is, I would say, is that let's count the numbers in terms of digital inclusion and vis-a-vis women. We have 1/3. If you go to the governance level, let's go to panchayat level, empowerment of women through digital. We have 1/3 women elected panchayat members in our country. That means we elect 3 million members in panchayat level, and it is all about governance. 1 million are women. If we make a scheme go to those women, how impactful it would be. Not only the governance system, but also that woman at a village level as a leader will be much more responsible and take digital to the different level. Go to health area, and health, about 2 to 3 million frontline health workers are all women. If we digitally enable them, our health system is going to get better, our data system is going to get better, and the information dissemination that we are doing about health to the village level population in terms of preventive health information is going to be much more stronger. Third, SHG's members are considered to be the backbone of the MSME or the micro level of entrepreneurship in our country. Imagine millions of SHG members are properly integrated, or a similar project like that integrated, for example, 545 craft clusters or the handloom clusters, all are embedded and strongly run by women. How we can take this digital to those level of women to make the ecosystem much better, because it will make a better financial system, it will make a better infrastructure system, it will also make our MSME level of strengthening much better. And the last is the backbone of our farming system, agriculture system is also based on women. If we there also target women to come on board on digital bandwagon, it is going to be much more stronger. And then lastly, just pure financial system. The real financial system, the ecosystem is dependent on a woman in a household for the meaningful utilization of financials. And in that, if we target digital inclusion with women as far as the financial inclusion is concerned, or financial literacy is concerned, or financial counseling is concerned, we are going to go a long, long, long way. I would stop there, but I'm going to give you a lot of link onto the chat to go through the kind of research that we have done, the kind of case studies we have done, which highlights how women are much better ecosystem to take digital through them. and it will lead into better digital inclusion, and it will also result in better digital ecosystem and a digital society than otherwise. Thank you.
Grateful to Osama for his message, and especially highlighting the concept of women first digital, which is what we are trying to do at the in the Women Connect Challenge India. He talked about some highly relevant initiatives like the BharatNet project, for example, which is digitally connecting and enabling village panchayats across the country. He touched upon the Common Services Scheme, or the CSC, which utilizes village level entrepreneurs to offer basic e-governance services to rural and far-flung population across India. He indicated about the Pradhan Mantri Gramin Digital Saksharta Abhiyan, or the PMG Disha, which aims to digitally equip households through trainings, and the overall focus on e-governance that we are seeing now, and of course the uptake of UPI that this focus has resulted in. Yet, again, like he mentioned, that despite such initiatives, uh, there may be requirement for more. The latest GSMA report, which many of you have already taken a look at, the GSMA 2023 report, points out that only 31% of Indian women are still are using mobile internet, and the progress also seems to have stalled. And if we look at adequate and frequent usage, these percentages will only be much lesser, like again he indicated. Many social impact organizations like the of course, are working hard to facilitate inclusive digitization, while also ensuring that lack of access to technology does not result in limited access to government benefits and schemes by our target communities. Our next speaker, Madhura Karnik, represents such an organization called Hagdarshak, which uses technology to facilitate access to link far-flung and disadvantaged communities to government schemes, and plays a critical role in the facilitation of e-governance in India. Madhura is the Chief Growth Officer at Hagdarshak. She's traveling it as well and has been kind enough to join this conversation from the airport. Thank you, Madhura. Over to you.
Thank you, Ritesh, and hope everyone can hear me well because I won't be able to speak out loud, but trying my best here. Hi, everyone, and great to be talking to all of you. Um, I think Osama and Ritesh have made some very important points when it comes to establishing that, numbers of digital adoption from a gender lens are still low in the country. And I'm here to talk about our experiences on what we've seen practically on ground. Before I do that, just a quick words about Hak Darshak. We are a social impact organization. We are not for profit. We're a private limited company, and what we're trying to do is build solutions so that individuals can access entitlements as well as financial inclusion products and services easily. And a large part of our process is actually gender focused. We have a mobile app, which is our technology and platform, on which local community women are trained on. And they are the ones who take that app to their other community members and do two things, right? They solve the information awareness by profiling them, and our technology matches their profile with eligible schemes at the back end. And at the front end, they get a customized list of schemes. And the second part is that they also do is that they actually facilitate the end-to-end applications for these individuals. And we a very interesting story of sort of how we started this, right? Why women, why assisted tech. In 2016, when Hagdarshak was sort of born, we were naive enough to sort of think that, hey, you know what, let's just make an app which hosts a lot of schemes information, and let's just go to a community and tell the people to start using it. And what that might result into is that the community might adopt this app, mobile app. They might know about schemes and they will go and apply for themselves. And we picked a low-income community in Pune that time. And what we did was we went there and we gave this app to the community. And we said we told that we'll come back in a month. And then we went back in 1 month. And then we asked all of them that, okay, did you use this app? The first answer was yes, we did, which is great. The second question was, okay, what did you use it for? Like, so many of them said, oh, we saw it and we sort of filled in our information and we saw the list of schemes on the smartphone. However, many people in my household couldn't do it because they don't own a smartphone. So first sign of sort of this digital divide, and many people there were women of the household, did not own their individual smartphones. And the second is that they said that while it shows information about schemes, we did not get the time to go and apply either at a government channel or even online, because I'm not that digitally literate to sort of fill long forms online. And that's where we thought that Harshak should be ideally a assisted tech model, wherein we are leveraging community agents who are women, who are youth, to use our technology and then take that to the community and do the end-to-end process. And in a way, we solved one part of the digital divide was that, automatically some members of the community were trained on these apps, were trained on government channels, and were trained on online applications in these startups. When we interestingly started this, we said that, you know what, let's just focus on women. And we said that any woman with a smartphone and basic literacy is eligible to become a Harshak, and we'll train them. And the saddest part that time was that while a woman did own a smartphone, and these are all low-income households in urban areas, and then we also moved to rural, most of them said that I use the smartphone only for 2 hours a day. And we were baffled, like, why would that be? And they said, yeah, after that designated time, either my husband takes it or my kid uses it. Or in some extreme cases, we saw that phones were locked into cupboards saying that women cannot use smartphones. Why? Because it will sort of give them access to information that they don't need. Right. So there is this policing and surveillance, the social policing that happens in terms of giving women access to digital tools with a fear that, hey, they may learn more, and they will actually learn a few good things, and they might try to break the social norm. So that's sort of a fun story. But we started our journey there, and then slowly we built a cadre of around 25,000 or 26,000 women agents across the country who are now using the Hakarshak app or taking that app to their communities and helping them apply for schemes. In the process that we learned that there is an immense need to actually train them on the basics of digital and financial literacy, as we call them. All right. And what do we mean by that? We mean by not just using a smartphone, but how to utilize a smartphone to fulfill financial transactions. A lot of them did not know how to use ATM machines, right? Everyone gets an ATM card with a bank account. But what do you do with that card? And this is not just women. This is also men in informal sectors working in cities, like construction workers, sanitation workers, rack pickers. All of them do have a bank account and they do have a card, but they don't know what to do with the card because the bank is not giving them the training of how to use the ATM card in a way that is conducive, right? Banks are trying, government is trying, they're giving them literature. Every card comes with a envelope with a long list of text on it, but a construction worker can't read it. So then when we sort of took a step back and said that, okay, along with schemes literacy and along with schemes linkages, we really need to work on digital and financial literacy. And that's where we started training on digital and financial literacy along with our skill literacy. And of course, the challenges are many. I think Osama has spoken a lot about it. All of us know what challenges they are. But I think when we look at what has changed, right, and how has it become easy today to do it better, is because of the multiple sort of digital public goods and infrastructure that the government has also built. I like to point out a few examples where those can be easily used by anyone. So let's take case in point UPI. Osama spoke about UPI. A couple of months back, the NPCI introduced the phone-based UPI, the feature phone-based UPI, right? And that is exactly for people who do not have smartphones, or they have feature phones, and for them to use the feature phone and transact, right? And that's a massive way, a massive step towards digital literacy and financial literacy, because you're now sort of getting in people who don't have access to a smartphone to do online transactions via the feature phone. And that I think is groundbreaking, right? You just call, you just give a missed call, or you follow a few instructions, and there you are. The second thing that's very interesting is that WhatsApp is today predominantly used as a communication channel across communities, right, and across low income, high income, middle income classes. The government, the Digital India department has opened what it calls Bhashini, which is a multilingual chatbot where you can do voice commands, where you can type in, and it helps you sort of utilize Bhashini for multiple use cases. What Hagdarshak is now trying to do with Bhashini, and we are working with the government on that, is trying to make a chatbot where someone just says that what insurance scheme am I eligible for in the local language, and Bhashini throws up the answer in a voice format as a form of voice note. That is again solving information access to a great extent, because you don't need to read English, or you don't need to read the local language. It's all audio and it's all voice. I think these are big strides in a way to sort of narrow the digital divide that is there today. Of course, adoption of it will be up left to sort of, field implementing organizations like a DEF, like a Hagdarshak, to sort of teach people about these new tools. But there's immense progress made in the infrastructure that's being built. I think the third important part is, in what we've also seen, a lot of research is there, that when UI UX is made for financial or banking sort of websites and channels, there's not a lot of thought that goes into how do we make it easy for women to use this. There's always it's always male oriented. If you go to an HDFC bank, and if you see the sample questions, you will always see a name of a male, right? You will never see a woman's name in any of the sample cases, in any of our financial institutions, instruction manuals, or anywhere. And I think that speaks a lot, right? Any financial decision today is always looked up to a male. No one asks a woman when I go to buy a house. It's always the man that he when I want to buy a house. So I think these are not just rural and urban divides. These are across. And one of the important things is to think, how do we empower women, which is where the Hagdarshak model sort of was brought in. That how do you empower women to help other women access financial literacy, access digital literacy, and sort of go ahead. The government themselves is giving a huge push via the SHG network for digital adoption. Many of these SHG networks today are business correspondents for banks, which means that they hold their POS machines and go door to door and enable other women to do banking transactions, which is again a big sort of step. But the adoption and the sustainability of these models will only happen if a community and society organizations sort of back them and have innovative programs around it. There are innovations happening where people can use basic mobile phones, ask a few questions, and screen people for cancer. Right? There's a great startup called Karkinos who does that. And they train women to use their app, or you ask around 15 to 20 questions to your community members, and it shows you what your risk percentage to a particular kind of cancer. And I think this is what digital inclusion is. It's not just money, it's not just how to use a YouTube or a Facebook or a WhatsApp, but it's also using digital means to solve for health issues and health problems. I think for Hagdarshak now, some of the more important things that have evolved is that how do you really have words like savings, like an insurance, like an online banking, like an OTP, extremely easy and understandable and trustworthy amongst women. Because what we have seen is that when you empower one woman, that in fact is a 10x impact in the community. Today we have women in remote areas like Chhattisgarh, where these women are individually going to banks and doing transactions for their community. They are the ones who are sort of actually leading digital inclusion in their communities, and I think this is the way to go. The communities need to be empowered so that they can pass on the impact, rather than saying that we will go and reach each and every citizen. it's better to sort of have communities involved in it and have agency. I would definitely like to show a quick video if I can towards the end of this, so that it will show you what it does for our women agents when you talk of digital and financial literacy. But just a couple of sort of parting thoughts in terms of what we are seeing across communities, um, is that one of the very important matters for people, reasons for communities not using digital tools is trust. They have been sort of part of situations where either because of tech they have lost money, or because of tech there has been some problem. And hence, when we talk about building solutions, or maybe talk about building innovative solutions for digital and financial inclusion, an important part is how are we looking at security, how are we looking at data security, how are we looking at identity security, and how are we looking at sort of forming that trust? Because I think while digital inclusion has its own sort of positives, there's a lot of fraud that does happen through these channels. And hence, an important part of financial inclusion and digital inclusion should also be teaching people what not to do, rather than what to do. And I think one of the very interesting anecdotes from the field where we do these digital and financial literacy trainings is that a lot of times people ask us to start with what do I not do, rather than tell me what do I do. And when you start with what do you not do, then the what do you do part sort of automatically comes in. And I think basic things like sharing of OTPs, what is an OTP, why should I not share it? These are topics that sort of lead to very, very long discussions, largely in communities who don't have access to all of this. Right. So I think data security and identity security is of immense importance when we're all thinking of building solutions. I'm sure all the people here are thinking of building solutions. So that's something that we'll definitely see. Correct. I'll do that. But yeah, I think these were some of our observations from the field, and I would really sort of like to answer questions if there are any and have a discussion rather than sort of doing this monologue. So over to you, Ritesh and others.
Yeah, thank you, Madhura. And we have a Q&A just after this. But yeah, I just wanted to sort of, again, thank you because I know it's not an easy thing sitting in an airport and talking. And I'm also glad that you talked about the concept of, security safeguard, which is a major, major issue, but also a detriment to a lot of early users adopting digital usage. Um, Let me open the conversation now. Like Madhura said, if you have any questions, please use the raise hand function, and we can sort of we will ask you to ask a question to her. Maybe while you're thinking through questions, Madhura, I was in fact thinking about asking you something. So you talked about the NPCI featured phone bit, and how you can do UPI transactions. I know there's been a lot of thought behind it. This has been working for quite a lot of time, and now it's finally out. I'm just wondering, I mean, have you all seen it working, in the community? Are people utilizing it? What's the feedback if you've seen it? If you can talk a little more.
Yeah. I think one, it's a fairly recent launch. I think it was I think last month, September. But I'm speaking on behalf of the people we tell these features about, and definitely there
Of
is
course,
use.
yeah.
Right. And I think before use, like you said, there is a lot of interest. There's a lot of happiness to sort of see that, hey, is it so easy? But I think it will take time for them to build that trust, like you said. Osama pointed out that 30% of transactions in India, UPI transactions, only 30% come from rural, whereas 70% of the population is out there, right? So I think largely there is interest and there is intrigue. We will, I think next 6 to 7 months will be important to see how the adoption takes place. But I think with Bhashini and with a lot of focus on multilingual sort of interfaces, that should solve the problem. We've seen that any solution which is multilingual, which is available in the state's local language, has much more traction than if you look at just a Hindi or an English. So yeah, there is definitely interest, and people will sort of now start using that till they sort of develop that trust.
Yeah, thank you for explaining that. Just one more question from me, Madhura. So, especially in terms of adoption of UPI, I've seen in urban areas a lot of it has been demand driven, right? I mean, so I go to a small shop somewhere and I say, why can't I make a UPI payment? And then 10 other people come in and then the shopkeeper sort of uses it. I'm not getting into the good or bad of it, but that's what been my not research, but sort of experience in how demand has grown in the large towns and demonetization, COVID, and of course government sort of motivation to use those has helped. In rural areas, also government has played a major role, like you mentioned. SNGs have been a major uh, driver of digital usage, which is happening through the till livelihood missions. Hug Darshak, I understand while it's working in alignment with self-help groups, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but you have your independent cadre of people. So how, keeping in mind that you're taking and talking about a tool, the digital bit of it, which is still not completely trusted by early digital users. I mean, how are you doing that? If you can talk a little more about that.
I think what one of the success metric there what we've seen is a show don't tell, right? Don't just tell that something is available. Have a trusted person from the community use it and then tell them to show the usage, right? So I think when people see that, and that's a huge sort of positive in communities, any community, word of mouth. When I see my neighbor doing something and they have benefited from it, I will go and try it, right? And I think when we go to communities, the first thing is that we show a success story, that hey, this is how this person has used it, this is what they got through it, and this is how you can do it as well. And telling telling people how individually it is going to make a difference, and including that in the training programs is very important. We can talk about how this is adding to digital India's mission, but the person sitting in Jharkhand does not really care about digital India. What
Yeah,
he or she cares is how can my money be transferred easily from the place of work of my work to my household, right? And easily, and
exactly.
so that my family can sort of get it. So you need to really demonstrate the use cases. You need to demonstrate how you can use it, and then the adoption starts after seeing that okay, this is work, this is no problems, it is easy, I can do it. That's how we sort of start the process of awareness and engagement.
Yeah, I think that's such an important point that you made, Madhura, and I think it also, in a way, sort of summarizes everything. So yes, there are certain policies which are working well, which are not working so well, various ways of looking at it. There is a certain sort of adoption that we are trying to sort of push more towards, but at the end of the day, it is about trust. And how do you make sure that people start trusting a tool before they actually use it? And I think that's such a critical point. I wish we can sort of keep on having this conversation because there's no end to it. But it is such an important and relevant conversation, especially all of us who are working in the gender digital divide space. And I'm sure, from what you have said and what Osama shared, there is a lot of, food for thought that all our partners who are here have, are going to take back. If there are any questions, I will have I like I mentioned also is something that I always offer that, for you, for Osama, I will be happy to facilitate a conversation with you. So, and which I'm sure is how it happens, once you go back and you
Sure.
start thinking is when the questions come up. I wanted to thank you, Madhura, for taking the time. And again, I mean, so grateful that you could make it. So grateful to Osama and the DEF team for making sure that we could hear more about their experiences and what they're doing. And I look forward to our next monthly webinar on another topic which is relevant to this conversation and carries on from here. Thank you again, Madhura. Have a great day, all of you,
Thank you.
and see you next month.
Thanks, Mukesh.
Thank you. Bye bye.